I'm sitting in church one day, and we're in worship. And I'm going to be honest, I had gotten to a point where I could not submit myself to active worship because I was just so hurt. So I would sit there and like, raise your hands in the sanctuary. I'm not raising my hands because I'm just like, and I'm sitting there this day and it's punching me in the chest like, doof, doof. I'm feeling the power and the presence of the Holy Spirit. And I got my head down and I'm weeping. And God starts speaking to me again. It's that same still small voice he spoke to me that day when he said, it had to happen this way. Mm-hmm. I'm sitting there and God said, when you gonna come clean? I said, what you mean, sir? I said, when you gonna come clean? He said, you've pointed the finger at your agent. You've said the team, the general manager, the coaches, you've been angry at everybody. He said, won't you be real? You mad at me.
I knew it was coming.
He said, are you ready to admit that I let you down?
I knew it was coming.
I wasn't ready because I didn't know it. I felt it, but I didn't know it until he revealed it to me. And it was in that moment that I surrendered myself and I said, okay, God. Okay. First off, forgive me. Thank you for showing me that. And how do I move forward from here? Mm-hmm. So yeah, man, that thing was a journey. I didn't know that it had a grip on me the way that it did. And even years later, it was still dealing with me. I was being healed in layers.
Yeah. That's the only way to be healed, though.
Yeah.
Like thoroughly healed.
Right.
Man, your honesty is so refreshing. It's so refreshing. I know we joked earlier about the people that edit their testimonies.
Right.
But like there's such a your story is so humanized. And most people don't share their story as nuanced as you're sharing it with me.
Yeah.
And it's like I can identify with you. That's why I knew it was coming. Like I could literally identify with you about being in the Lord's presence and being like, yeah, nah, fam. And him not even being petty.
Right.
Like, oh, you ain't gonna talk to me? Oh, you ain't gonna lift your hands? Well, then I ain't talking to you. When you can praise me, then I'll talk. You know what I mean? Like in the midst of you feeling all of that, for him to be kind enough.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like he's very kind and he's not judgmental.
Yeah.
Like he knew you were mad at him.
Right.
You didn't know you were mad at him.
Right.
right. Like, oh my gosh, man. So, and then you talk about these layers. So that's an important thing. And I would love for you to elaborate on that any way you feel. But bro, those layers, we'll stay with athletics, right? So you get an injury. Let's say you get an injury to your ankle. You don't get back on the field when you can put pressure on it.
Right.
It ain't healed yet.
Right.
Just because you can do something that you couldn't do before doesn't mean the healing process is complete.
Yeah.
That's why Achilles injury takes 12 to 14 months. Right?
I know.
Not 6 to 8. Maybe you are doing rehab at that point, but that don't mean you ready to cleat up from the feet up to go get beat up. Right? The bars just happen. I don't even try. It's just so what were those layers for you?
Yeah. And again, it's you don't know until it's revealed. Because some of that, now I'm just walking wounded and I have no idea. I'm just doing the best that I can and convincing myself that I'm okay.
Yep.
And I'm over this.
Yep.
Right. And so all of a sudden, I'm going through the next season of life. Two things I did not want to do is I didn't want to coach. And I didn't want to go into broadcasting. That's what all the players do, right? I'm like, I didn't want to do either of those.
Yep.
God called me into a situation where I had the opportunity to coach. But before I go there, I want to share kind of more of how he was healing me through the layers. So,
yeah, for sure.
So we would go to these events, right?
Yep.
And boy, the basement does have that effect, that vulnerability. Oh my gosh. You got me telling stuff. Lord. I do tell my people at Salt Church International that we believe in being real, revealing, exposing, authentic, and legitimate, but this is another level.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So
thank you. Because it's a gift. We could never demand it. But
it's wonderful.
Thank you for trusting
and
us.
freeing.
Grateful.
So we would go to these events, and sometimes it would be like alumni events where there are other players there, their spouses. It might be even a ministry related event that they put on for former players. And my wife said something to me. She said, I notice every time we go to these, like she's like, something is different about you. She's like, you're not yourself. And I'm like, yeah, I am. I'm cool. And she's like, you're not. Like, I just noticed something about you. And I don't know what it is, but we need to figure out what that is. Because every time we come in these atmospheres, like, you just clam up, like something is off. And I couldn't put my finger on it. I didn't care to. There was still like a level of bitterness when I would walk in those arenas that just I couldn't, really identify. So God did something for me. I got a call, and in the midst of that call, a gentleman offers me an opportunity to be a part of a business opportunity, essentially. And thank you, sir. And it involves a number of other players, and they're all former players, right? He calls me. He says, I want you to come down, be a part of this. And again, mind you, I'm still dealing with imposter syndrome. Every situation I walk into, I'm doubting now whether I have what it takes.
Right.
If I'm valued enough.
Right.
I'm struggling through worthiness all the time.
Yep.
And anytime somebody gives me a hint of rejection, it takes me immediately back to the day that I didn't get drafted.
Got you.
Over and over.
Wow.
So that stuff I'm just constantly dealing with.
Yeah.
And so he says, I want you to be a part of this or whatever. And it's one of those situations that just sound too good to be true. The names he dropping of who's involved, and this is what we gonna do, and this is the kind of money you got the opportunity to make. I'm just like, nah, I don't believe it. So he tells me, hey, we're gonna fly you out, come down, be a part of this. And I'm still wondering if the people he said is gonna be involved in this. I'm just like, I don't believe it. So I go to the hotel, they got an agenda, be downstairs for this meeting or whatever. I walk into this room, and I'm in the midst of like Hall of Famers, all these big name players, like dudes that I grew up like, oh man, and I'm looking around the room, and immediately I become this big. And I think about what my wife said, and I'm just like, here we go again.
Wow. Because
they all know each other, everybody dapping each other up.
Yeah.
And I'm the guy in the room. Now I got to go introduce myself,
right?
Right.
I
wasn't that dude. So I'm like, hey, how you doing? I'm such and such. And so we're sitting in the room, and the gentleman who invited me, he has a conversation with me on the side, and he goes, what do you think? And I'm like, bro, this legit. Like, I didn't really think. And he's like, no, but how you feel? And I said, I'm wondering what I'm doing here. And he said, what? I said, yeah, I'm kind of wondering what I'm doing in the room.
Yeah.
So we're sitting there, and in the course of the meeting, people are giving feedback, input, and I'm contributing to the conversation. And in the middle of me talking, he goes, wait a minute. And I'm like, huh? And he said, he just put me on blast in front of everybody in there. He's like, 15 minutes ago, he said to me, I don't know why I'm here. He goes, do you hear what's coming out of this dude's mouth?
Wow.
He looked at me, he said, that's why you here.
Wow.
He said, you belong here.
Wow. Wow.
And I'm like, I'm trying to take all of that in, you know, and I'm seeing the vibe is changing. People are, you know, like coming to me, you know, just these dudes that I, you know,
yeah, for sure,
that I looked up to for who they were on the field.
Yeah.
I left that hotel, and the next day, one of my business partners and friends picks me up. He's taking me to the airport, and I said, man, God just did something for me. He said, what? I said, man, God just healed me. I said, another layer just came off. That thing that my wife was talking about, the problem was every time I got in the room, in that atmosphere, I went back to not feeling like I was enough.
Wow.
I got back to feeling like I wasn't good enough. Like I wasn't worthy. Like they didn't choose me.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there, and God literally said to me that night when I went back to my room, he said, that's done. He said, you ain't gonna never feel like that again. He said, because the way you look at them and what they were able to do on the football field, he said, this next season for you, that's how they gonna look at you.